If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 270 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on December 14th of the year 2025 with yet another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Thank you. Not feeling very cheery today, though. No, it's not because it's the off season, and no, it's not because tomorrow's Monday or anything like that. It's because I opened my blinds this morning, and there was snow. There was a lot of snow. Oh, no! Yeah, that's basically what was going on in my mind when I saw that. And I swear, last night, my fiance and I had some friends over last night, and before it started snowing late in the night last night, I didn't even know that there was supposed to be snow this weekend, let alone that they were saying, oh, there could be up to 6 inches. There were more than 6 inches out there this morning. There were more than 6 inches, a lot more. So at least out by where we live, I don't know wherever you are in New York, on Long Island, I don't know where, but where we are, there were more than 6 inches, which doesn't surprise me because they get about as much correct as the Yankees organization does with prospects, with the exception of Aaron Judge in the last 10 or so years. But anyway, boom, roasted. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, guys. Cue person in the background saying, hey, Cam Schlittler's looking really good. Anyway, yeah, not too happy about that. And shoveling, and, well, only a little bit. We have landlords that take care of the shoveling, but then we just had to take our cars out of the snow a little bit. So, yeah, just fun, happy fun times that the winter brings. And the best part is that it's not even winter yet. That's the best part. And that's hard to remember sometimes. It's very easy to forget because the last few weeks here in New York, you go outside and it has been in the teens at night. In the teens, even in late November. And it's very easy to forget that on the calendar, it's still, even today, not even winter yet. The winter solstice is not for another week from today. So I tremble at what January and February are going to bring in 2026 because this is a literal freaking nightmare early on here before it officially has even turned into winter. So I'm just very terrified. Very terrified because people who know me very well should know that I am a D1 cold hater. I am an even bigger division winter hater, period. Anything that has to do with the winter, the cold, that includes, but is certainly not limited to, the snow and any other aspect of the winter except for the fact that bugs are not around. That's a good thing. But it ends about there. That's about it. So I was quite freaking miserable to open the blinds this morning and see the travesty that is outside. And everybody always says, oh, the snow looks so pretty on the trees. Spare me. So naturally in a bad mood over that. But nonetheless, I guess it's a pretty good day. Otherwise, pretty good weekend. Hope you guys are all doing well, too. The last time we spoke, it was the last day of November, literally the last day of November, the 30th, a couple of days after Thanksgiving had come and gone. And now we find ourselves in the middle of December, guys. The end of the year is creeping closer and closer and closer. The next time I plan on yapping with you, I haven't decided yet. I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after, because the end of December with Christmas just around the corner and New Year's, and then right after that, my birthday. This is always a very tricky time of the year for me. So sometimes in years past, I've had my last episode of the year, whatever particular year it was in the last 6 or 7 years. And do not meme the 6-7. Quiet! Yeah, that's right. Johnny Lawrence and I are on to your ass. Don't meme it. But yeah, for the last 6 or 7 years that I've been doing Yapping Yankees, going on to year 7, usually around this time of the month, I kind of make it the last episode of the year because of how tricky the end of December usually is. But I'm going to try to pop one more episode out to you before 2025 ends. I'd like to at least. So I'll keep you posted on social media. But right now, I would say expect the 28th. That's what I would say. Just expect the 28th, but we'll see what happens. If anything changes, of course, I'll post an update to social media. And just as a little other reminder, a little harmless plug right here. But the social media platforms that you could best catch my up-to-the-minute updates, Twitter especially, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays, at Mike Scudero. Please go follow me on there if you do not already. By far the biggest social media platform, following-wise and activity-wise for me. And Instagram, I'll post updates on there as well, particularly on my story. That's Mike Scuds97 if you don't already follow me on there. So just for any Yapping Yankees updates that happen to come out that result in an episode, the next one coming out any other day other than the 28th, I'll be sure to post it on either or both of those, so be sure to stay tuned on there. But again, I would like to pop at least one more episode out to you before 2025 officially ends, especially if something big happens before we ring in the new year. Like if they happen to sign one of the Japanese guys, if they bring Bellinger back, if they bring in Tucker, whatever the move is, if they bring in a reliever, I don't care who it is. If it's a bigger move, I'll be here the coming Sunday of whenever that happens. So if that happens this coming week, then I'll be here on the 21st. If it happens the following week leading up to the 28th, between the 21st and the 28th, well, I'm already planning on being with you on the 28th anyway, so I'll talk to you then regardless. But either way, as always, stay tuned to those social media platforms. Otherwise, expect me on the 28th. Which leads me into my next thing as far as expectations going forward. I've been a little quieter about this the last month because I've been doing some deeper thinking about it. And I've spoken about this at great length for a few episodes the last, maybe 3 months or so. I've been alluding to it. I've finally come to a decision as to when the last Yapping Yankees episode will be in this particular traditional pre-taped, strictly audio, pre-recorded podcast format sort of thing like I've been doing with this podcast for almost 7 years now. It's been going on since May or June of 19, guys. We know that. Those of you who have hopped on more recently or somewhere in the middle maybe, you might not know that, but I have been doing this show since May or June of 2019, right when I was graduating from college, when I was 22 years old. I'm about to be 29 in about 2 or 3 weeks. And going on year 7 of doing Yapping Yankees. And I've explained my reasoning for wanting to do this and wanting to transition over to a new sort of way of doing content. So I'm not going to repeat myself too much. You can listen back to the last, maybe any episode within the last 5 or so, and I've alluded to this plenty. And I said I would keep you updated when I made a final decision on what I'm going to do on sort of the final stretch of this era and this format of Yapping Yankees that's been going on for well over a half a decade now. It's been a long time. Not many people at all keep podcasts going for this many years, for this long, for as consistently as I've done it, especially when the podcast doesn't make it big per se. Now, I've always been fine with the fact that Yapping Yankees never lit the world on fire, made it big. I'm fine with having a couple hundred or maybe a few hundred on a bigger week listeners every episode. I'm completely content with that. I love the little intimate and dedicated fan base I've built over the last bunch of years, and I'm cool with that. I don't need to be on the level of any other bigger podcast or any other big company that does podcasts or anything like that. Anybody who knows me knows that I never started this podcast for that goal. Like, if that ended up happening, terrific. I'm not going to be pissed off at it. You'd be mental if you get pissed off at something like that. But that was never the desire to do it. I just wanted to keep some form of content going with the thing I love talking about the most, the Yankees. And I wanted to keep my broadcasting skills pretty much honed so I never lost the connection that I always had with radio years ago before I left the industry. And both of those things combined, broadcasting, doing my own content, and that content being the Yankees, it always made me happy and I always wanted to do it. So I started Yapping Yankees, which is not too far off from being a decade ago, which is insane to think about. And here we are, getting ready for 2026 to come in, and I'm not that far off from 300 episodes. I never expected to get anywhere this close. So trust me when I tell you, I am at complete peace with this decision. Complete peace. And I've explained my other reasons why, like my Sunday nights, wanting those back to a degree, and just the time and the dedication it takes to do the show, which, listen, I still like doing it. I still enjoy it. But I feel it's time for it to transition over to something else that is more manageable with my time and my life and whatnot. And I think it could be even better. I think it could be really fun. I think it's awesome to be able to talk to people in real time and answer questions in real time like the live stream format grants you the ability to do. And I think it could open up even more doors and just bring about more excitement from listeners and fans and just have it be even more fun for myself. It's just an entirely different ballgame. Now, I still have more research and more details to put together for what exactly is going to happen. That's more stuff that I'm going to be keeping in touch with you about both in the last few episodes of this show here over the next couple of months and on social media as I continue to decide it in real time, week by week. But the official update is that for Yapping Yankees, we are officially in the final stretch. I've decided that episode 275 is going to be the last Yapping Yankees episode of this format, of this pre-taped, traditional audio-only podcast format. Vader's not happy. And I'm sure there are a couple out there who are also not happy. And listen, I get it. I understand. My point of view, again, is that, again, this is something that I really wanted to do years ago, and I still enjoy doing it. I'm not lying about that even a little bit. I'm truly being as honest as I possibly could and as open as I possibly could be with you, because that's what you deserve, especially if you're a longtime fan of mine, whether it just be on social media or on here or on all of it, regardless of what it is. If you've been on the ride with me for a long time, even if you're just hopping on now at the end here, listen, I still appreciate you. I don't appreciate you any less, but you deserve to have full transparency when it comes to my thought process, the way I proceed forward with this and other things involving my content. If you enjoy watching or listening to me or whatever it is, or just keeping track of my stuff on social media, whatever. But this is just truly how I feel. I think it's time for Yapping Yankees to evolve and transition over to something else that could be even more fun potentially for both you and also me. That grants me some time that I'd also like back on Sunday nights that I've been doing for many, many years. At this point, I've been doing this show for the vast majority of my 20s. I started this when I was in my very early 20s, and I'm almost 30 years old now. It's been a fun ride, and I know there's also a certain amount of you that have really also enjoyed this ride along with me, and I'm very, very happy about that, and I couldn't thank you enough. The good news is that since I'm doing every other week with the off-season format right now, is that another 5 or so episodes after this is still going to take us until about February. So I'm still going to be doing Yapping Yankees until about February of 26. So this is going into the new year, and you're not losing the podcast right away. You're going to have it for a few more episodes and for about a couple more months or so, give or take. So it'll be right around the time pitchers and catchers are reporting, give or take. Maybe even like position players, that the last episode of this, episode 275, is going to happen. And then I'm probably just going to take spring training to relax, and then I'll do some live streams once baseball officially starts, once the 2026 season gets underway, and we can have some fun, man. Now, I still haven't officially chosen the platform that I'm going to live stream from. The two that I have in mind are Twitter or YouTube, because I especially love YouTube, and I would love to introduce a visual aspect to it. A lot of people always say, oh, they'd love to see me when I talk too. Now, the reason I've been so hesitant to do that with Yapping Yankees here is because I really value the original podcast format and method when it's almost like you're listening to a radio show. It's audio only. You don't see the person. And you just can sit there and relax and kick your feet up, even if you're doing something else while you're listening to me. That's cool. I love the thought of that. I can't tell you how much content I consume maybe when I'm doing something else, or just as a way to occupy me, make me feel comfortable if I'm doing something, an activity where I could use a distraction in the background just to calm my mind a little bit. I think podcasting is great for that. A lot of other people listen to it and they lock in because there's a lot of information on the show and I'm talking Yankees or whatever. And that's cool too. However you want to listen to it, that's completely up to you and I encourage it. The fact that you're listening to my crazy ass for even 5 seconds means more to me than I could ever even put into words. But again, I think there are a lot of cool things, a lot of cool elements that live streaming could bring. Now, I'm not going to really, I guess I'll call the live stream sort of Yapping Yankees, I guess, like a live stream just to give it a name. But this traditional Yapping Yankees way and Yapping Yankees show that we've known for almost 7 years now, this chapter's coming to a close. And listen, chapters come to closes in life. That's, especially when there's one that I could be as proud of as I am of this. Again, like I said before, I'm at peace with it. It's going to give me a lot of time that I've been craving to have back, and it's going to be even more fun to do for me. And I think it's going to be even more fun for you guys, especially with the in-time, the real-time interaction. Because I've even had a lot of people say, like, boy, I wish I could call you, or I wish I could, like, leave your replies in real time and hear your immediate reaction or get your immediate answer to things I submit. Because I do the social media segment, or I have for the vast majority of the show, to get fan feedback and incorporate you guys with the show. And I think it's been great for the last almost 7 years that I've done that. I've been slacking on it for the last 5 episodes or so, but I do have a social media segment today, just so you know. Yay! Gojo's happy about it. But yeah, and I know a lot of you have enjoyed the social media segment, but live streaming and having like a live chat, like that makes that concept of fan and listener and viewership involvement, that makes it even more fun. You're interacting with people in real time. That's an even more exciting element to me. I mean, I know some other people have like a line that they have people call. Maybe they could leave a voicemail, or maybe they have a way of having a phone system on hand where they can take callers during a pre-tape. I don't know. Everybody's got different desires and a different method to do stuff with their content, and that's cool. More power to them. But I think this opens up even more of an avenue for me to do that with you guys personally. And again, as soon as I officially decide on a platform to live stream from, I'll let you guys know. I'll make sure it's something that everyone can gain access to so nobody's left out. And maybe I'll even find a way to evolve it even beyond that, where I could go to more than one platform at once, or maybe I could take it to another platform where it's even more readily available to others, depending on what people are usually used to using when it comes to live streaming. I got to do more research on it. I have to feign some ignorance on it because there are a lot of live streaming aspects that I'm not as knowledgeable about. I'm much more knowledgeable about the pre-tape format here and editing softwares to use for that and ways to promote, ways to post, and just things like that. But when it comes to live streaming, there are a lot of things that I don't know as much about that I wish I did know more about. Fortunately, I'm blessed that I do have people in my life, fellow content creators. Even if they're not Yankees content creators, there are people that I have in my circle, in my life, that do content, and they do live streaming, and they are knowledgeable about it. So I'll probably be picking their brains at least a little bit just for some extra knowledge and just some ideas going forward. But I'll keep you guys posted every step along the way with that. But this is just an update to let you know that as far as this show, just as far as a wrap-up plan and what's going to be happening after that generally, just taking spring training off sort of and just sitting back and enjoying spring training and then just starting live streaming, just dipping my feet into the water once the regular season gets underway. Just letting you know about that, what remains of this show, when the final episode will be, the episode number, whether that's in beginning, mid, late February, whatever it is, that's give or take the time it'll happen. And then just my general idea of what I'd like to happen once that time passes and the regular season gets underway, give or take. So that's the plan, guys. Episode 275 will be the last pre-taped, formatted Yapping Yankees episode, like the way it's been for the last, at that point, it'll be about 7 years. So it'll start to transition over to live streaming. I'm personally extremely excited about that because you could just kind of do live streaming like whenever you want. There's sort of less prep work that goes into it, just depending on the kind of show you're looking to do or the kind of content you're looking to do. It kind of depends. And there's less post work to do afterwards. I mean, you could cut up clips and release those to get people to go back and watch or whatnot and get traction that way, and you do some work that way with editing and whatnot. But just overall work-wise, it fits so much better, I think, and there are so many other elements to it that I'm just really excited about, and I think you guys would like a lot too, especially that live real-time interaction. I think that's really cool, those elements that live streaming involves. So I'm looking forward to that, but I just want to let you know sort of the final stretch that's beginning for Yapping Yankees here with 2026 right around the corner. I just think that right now is a really good time to do this, just with my life ramping up and everything, and with baseball in the place that it's in. I think I've really just covered so many really good action-packed years for the Yankees. I mean, think about it. I always reflect on it, but think about everything that I've covered, everything that's happened in the baseball world, even the world in general, since I started this show in May or June of 19. You saw me through my graduation of college. Like when I just started, I just graduated from college. Then the rest of 19 was crazy. I got into the radio industry and started there. The rest of that year was wild. And then 2020 comes in. I mean, do we even need to friggin' talk about that? But even the end of 2019 with the Yankees elimination against the Astros, again, like it's just so crazy. Like the heartbreak with all of that. We've been through a lot of heartbreak together on this show because being a Yankee fan since 2009, I mean, yeah, they make it to the playoffs all the time, but when it comes to their lack of success in the playoffs, there's been so much heartbreak, guys. Oh my God, there's been so much heartbreak. Other teams and other fans of other teams would kill to be able to make the playoffs and have those heartbreaks rather than just go into the new season and know that their team is not going to do anything right off rip. Like, I get that. But I'm just telling you from this perspective, from the perspective of a Yankee fan where, you're supposed to be winning championships and like how the Yankees used to be, just doing whatever it takes. And now you make it to the playoffs consistently. You miss every once in a while, but you're there consistently and just have to deal with constant elimination and heartbreak and just everybody ragging on you. We've been through it. The 2019 elimination and then 2020, the freaking crazy ass year that was. Oh my God. That was wild between the virus and the screwed up season. And oh my God. 2021 was interesting. Yankees were okay that year, but it was still just an interesting year with the crowds being limited and just so weird. And then the wild card elimination against the friggin' Red Sox that year. 2022, crazy regular season, particularly the first half, but then the Astros sweep in the playoffs, and 23 not making the playoffs at all. 2024, the World Series heartbreak last year. 25. We've seen a lot. And even with 2027, with the CBA fears and the lockout fears and everything, and with all of that happening, you think back to when we went through that together, when things were so unsure in 2020 with getting baseball back after the virus hit. Like, we've really just, with the Astros scandal, we've been through so much. There's probably a ton that I haven't even mentioned or that I mentioned on another episode that I'm forgetting about right now here. There's just so much. 7 years from 2019. Once 2026 comes in, it's officially 7 years. 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We've covered 7 seasons. That is insane. So, and listen, we'll continue to cover it over live streaming. And we'll see how that goes, guys. We will see. I would love to always do some sort of broadcasting or content. Something. I would always love to be able to do that on the side. Again, even if it doesn't make me money. Except for a brief time where I was with my old buddy Chris's company, Ball 9, if you remember that. That was a while back. And I got some money from that, just being fully upfront. But otherwise, haven't made another penny out of this show. And if I never made a penny ever, I'd still be completely content with it. The content is what matters. You guys are what matters. Yapping about the Yankees is what matters. There you go. But in all seriousness, that's why I started this. That and wanting to keep my connection to broadcasting, to an element of radio that this pre-taped non-visual podcast format for Yapping Yankees has granted me all these years, and it's been fantastic. So I'll probably be reiterating all of this come the last episode because it'll be a tough one. But again, it makes it a little easier because it's not a complete goodbye from all my content overall. I plan on continuing content, just in a different way. So that's my update, guys. 275. That'll be the last Yapping Yankees episode, and I'm sure that'll be fun. I'm sure today will be fun, and all in between will be fun. Because that's what Yapping Yankees has been, or that's at least been what I've tried to always make it, is fun as hell for all of us. So I think I've taken up enough time on all of that. What do you say we get into yapping about our Yankees and yapping about some baseball in general? Because I tell you, the interesting thing is, I was looking forward to doing an episode today. Obviously, you didn't hear from me last Sunday because nothing big happened, so I didn't really have a need to come back for an immediate back-to-back Sunday like I usually do during the offseason when big things happen when it comes to the Yankees. But interesting thing is, it was a pretty eventful, well, I don't want to say pretty eventful. It's not completely true. I want to be accurate about this. First couple of days for the winter meetings were a freaking snooze fest. Yeah, the first couple of days were really rough. Like, even my brother was, like, crashing out. He was like, bro, there was nothing going on. Which I hate because, I mean, I've said it many times on this show and many years in the past. Like, the winter meetings is legit my favorite time of the entire offseason. So, we've had plenty of slow winter meetings. It's not the first time that's happened, but it still sucks when it happens. It doesn't change that. So, yeah, the first couple of days were rough. They were really rough. But then, like, the second to last day, like, later in that day and then into the last day, like, crap started to happen. Especially across town.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who you're a fan of, Anakin. If you're a fan of the Mets, not really. That's really where it just started to take the baseball world by storm because, well, the first thing that really lit the world on fire was the announcement that Edwin Diaz, he's been one of the bigger talking points for the Mets. Everybody's been expecting that they bring back at least one of Diaz or Alonso, right? They already had gotten rid of Nimmo, the other homegrown. So, I mean, Diaz is not homegrown, but Alonso is. You get the point. But regardless of the Nimmo trade from weeks ago, I at least always expected the Mets to bring back at least one of Diaz or Alonso. Now, I didn't know which move would be made first by them or anybody else. But regardless of what was done, like let's say if the Mets lost Alonso first, and I would have betted anything just about that they would have gotten Diaz back. And same vice versa, which is the way it actually happened initially, because Diaz was the first move made. And I was saying after that I got to bet that they bring Alonso back. Now, they're not going to let both go. So, anyway, regarding the first piece of news with Diaz, he signed with the Dodgers.
Oh my God!
Relatable. Yeah. I've been saying all offseason that the weakest aspect, even though it came through in the playoffs, especially later on, particularly when Yoshinobu Yamamoto decided to just leave it all out there, particularly in Game 7, that the weakest aspect of the Dodgers team, if you had to pick one, was their bullpen. And I said if they get one more premier arm to just really sort of lessen that only weakness, really, if you could even call it that, because they're already as unstoppable as they are, despite how far the Blue Jays pushed them, still couldn't get it done in the end. That's the point we're arriving at here. I said if they get a bigger arm that helps to just sideline that weakness, and Diaz falls under that category being the best closer in the market, then I basically announced that they will three-peat next year. I said that. I didn't know it was going to be Diaz, but I knew that they were going to get some sort of bigger reliever to help them with that particular weakness that they had in 2025. And so now Diaz is a Los Angeles Dodger. Oh, God. Yep, he's a Dodger. And for 3 years and $69 million, so it's $23 million a year AAV, which is a new reliever record for a deal. And that's pretty much that. I mean, I have to stick to my word, right? I want to stay consistent. I pretty much announce here that The Dodgers are going to win again in 26. I'd be shocked if they don't. I just don't think anybody could stop them. I really don't. There are people out there who I feel, that's just my opinion, are foolish enough to think that somebody could stop them, or maybe they'll get a big injury or something like that. Anything. No. I appreciate the optimism and the desire to want things to be mixed up. That's fine. But it's not going to happen. They're winning again. I don't know what else to tell you. They are winning again. That is that, guys. And it kind of leads to everything else sort of being a moot point in my mind, so that kind of stinks. So I guess the next question is, well, what's the point of talking about what the Yankees or anybody else should do in that case? Well, you're right. But listen, still got a season to play, and I still have a team that I am passionate about and that I want to watch, so I'm still going to talk about it. So it's kind of complicated. Oh, my gosh. I guess I now know how it feels to be a fan of another team from years ago when the Yankees were doing this. I wouldn't know because I wasn't a part of an era when the Yankees were doing this. They were doing this when I was born, but I was a friggin' baby. I wasn't old enough or a sports fan yet to understand and appreciate it. The only thing I got to appreciate was 2009, which, yes, I know there are still other fan bases that haven't even gotten to experience that the one time that I really have, when I was old enough to be a fan and truly enjoy and comprehend it and celebrate it. But the fact still remains, I was not a part, firsthand being a part of when the Yankees were like that. So I guess now that the Dodgers are like that, and their fans are now experiencing what my fan base got to experience for generations, and I'm just so lucky enough to not be able to experience it myself in this generation, I guess I'm now experiencing what all those generations of opposing fans got to feel when the Yankees were doing it all those years ago, and it freaking stinks.
Screw you.
Facts. Yeah, so they're winning again. That's pretty much the overall sentimentality of it. They're winning again. That's just how I feel. You don't have to agree with it. And you can talk yourself into the fact that they might not. If it helps you sleep better at night, that's completely fine. I will not stop you from doing that. I'm just telling you my opinion, that I strongly believe that they are going to be winning again in 26. For the third year in a row. I don't know, man. It's just really, it's crazy. It's crazy. They just won't stop. And crazy thing is, a lot of people are talking about them not being done yet, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. Not at all. People are saying that they could get Tucker. They could get one of the Japanese guys, whether it be Okamoto or Murakami, or maybe even Imai, even though that rumors are strongly suggesting with the Yankees more so than anybody else. But still, I mean, you never know. Imai is swearing up and down that he wants to take down the Dodgers still, even weeks later, after he originally said that. But I'm not taking anybody at their word anymore. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. That's pretty much the approach at this point. But it's just insane to me. They had the one weakness to address, and Diaz really put a major patch on that. Even if they still have some weaknesses towards the back end of their bullpen or maybe even middle relief, that really helps them out big time having Diaz there. Like, are you friggin' kidding me? Especially coming off the year that he's coming off of. My God, it's going to have Dodger fans excited. Crazy thing is that the Mets were only $3 million off of their offer. I'm pretty sure I heard that they did 3 years, $66 million. That's crazy. I'm surprised they just didn't meet that with all the money that they now have with Cohen and everything. But, I mean, Diaz was also saying that he just wanted to win, too. And, I mean, if you want to win, then LA is the freaking place to go right now. So, I don't really blame him there. I mean, that's just common sense. But still wild. And I would have bet anything just about that the Mets would have done everything in their power to lock in Pete Alonso beyond the shadow of a doubt. But then the next day, when the Met fan was already ran over by a tractor trailer, they backed it up and then floored it and just finished them off. They killed him, flattened him like a pancake. Because the next day, it was announced that Pete Alonso, there were whispers going around that throughout the winter meetings, he had meetings with teams like the Red Sox, the Orioles, and everything. And listen, I would have dreaded if he became a Red Sox. I would have hated that. But one of those other teams, they ended up coming to fruition. The freaking Orioles on a 5-year, $155 million contract.
Holy crap!
That's right, Frank Barone. This I never expected. Everyone always wants to talk about, and maybe it's true. I don't know. I'm not in on the clubhouse. I'm not in on the organization. I don't have sources. So I don't know. Could be right. But these people, could be right. But there's always rumors about who's who didn't get along, who felt a certain way about somebody else, whose wives felt certain ways about each other. And people will say the writing was on the wall last year with how they handled re-signing Pete with that shorter contract with the opt-out after the 1 year, the resurgence season he just had. And yeah, that's true. I definitely understand that point of view, where the writing was on the wall after how all that went last offseason. But still, I just did not think that in the end, especially after just losing Diaz the day before, I always thought they were going to bring at least one of them back. I never thought the Mets would have the balls to let both guys walk. That's what shocked me. Especially with the last death blow being Alonso. Say what you want about the guy or who felt a certain type of way about him, which fans felt a certain type of way about him, and whatever. You think Mets nowadays, you thought Pete Alonso. That's their homegrown guy. That's the guy who basically broke their home run records and broke a lot of offensive records that they have ever had. They've really never had a full career, extremely successful guy. It goes back to my favorite radio rant of all time by the GOAT Don LaGreca. Shout out to him. When he went on his famous Ed Kranepool rant on ESPN Radio about 7 years ago, back in 2018, I think it was, when he was talking about how every other organization just about, especially the Yankees he was talking about, had what he called a forever player, someone who spends their entire career start to finish with one team, shows loyalty to one team, and has just a legendary career. Aaron Judge falls under that scope. That's an obvious one for the Yankees right now. The Yankees have many others throughout their history. Other organizations even have many others throughout their history. Say what you want about them, and I'd probably agree, but Altuve is another one for the Astros. Probably going to retire soon. He's been there his whole career. Look at all that he achieved there, whether it was real or fake. That's a story for another day. That's another example of a forever player. And Met fans are going to hate this mention, but it's another example. Chipper Jones, that's another forever player. Iconic Hall of Fame career, spent his whole career with the Braves. How about other guys throughout history, like Cal Ripken Jr. with the Orioles? How about Yastrzemski with the Red Sox? Tony Gwynn with the Padres. Just a few off the top of my head right now. I'm sure there are many more, but those are examples of forever players on many different organizations. Whether or not those have been successful organizations as a whole through the years, there are plenty of them who have an example of having a forever player who had an iconic career. The only real forever player, iconic career not the Mets have, as Don said, is truly Ed Kranepool. He wasn't wrong. People mention David Wright, but David Wright didn't have a full career here. I mean, he played his whole career with the Mets, and he had a very nice career, that's for sure. And he was the captain and all that. That's great. But it ended badly. It ended in a sad way with injury. It got cut short. So you hesitate to really count that in this discussion. It's not a full-on, really long, full-fledged career, an iconic career with one organization. Not like the other names I mentioned, and forget about all the names throughout the Yankees' history. But with the Mets, it really is like the only one. And when you think of another possibility where that could have been broken, it was Pete Alonso. And I really thought that was going to be the case. But the history of the Mets just letting icons go. Now, some people probably wouldn't refer to Pete as an icon, but he's had one of the better offensive careers of any Met ever. I mean, you can't deny that. And his defense even improved in the last couple of years, which was a bit of a weaker point for him when he first came up. He got better at that even. Still made his dumb mistakes. He was kind of had a weird weakness with throwing the ball to first after fielding it to a pitcher covering maybe. But other than that, I mean, he really majorly improved. I thought Mets and I thought Alonso. He was the guy. Guys like him and Lindor right now the last few years, even though he's not a forever. But, I mean, Nimmo was homegrown too. They let him go too. It was like the purging of their identity. This is what I said to a bunch of my Met fan friends. I feel like the Mets don't have an identity going into 2026. It's very weird. The offseason's far from over. They can make a lot more moves, absolutely. But this dismantle is so interesting and honestly kind of shocking. I know Steve said that he was going to be really disappointed if they didn't win a championship within the first 5 years, but now that that's come and gone with 2025 ending, I guess he friggin' meant it because he's just allowing this dismantle and letting these beloved players just go. I know they really haven't won a thing, and people say, oh, they're not going to win with this group, so, I mean, they kind of get in and they're excited for a new plan. But I mean, listen, technically, I know the Mets have only made the playoffs even 2 times since Pete came up, since like 2019. And the Yankees have done it more, but just as a comparison, especially when you have an owner like Steve Cohen who claims he's going to do anything and everything to have the Mets contending and always in on every sort of deal like he claimed they were going to be. It's just really weird to have that mentality and use that as a reason to dismantle. Like, technically, if you want to talk about World Series or bust and being pissed off that nobody has won anything as far as a championship, the Yankees haven't won anything either. Does that mean they should have let Judge go? No. Some deluded people out there might say yes to that, but the answer is no. So I just think it's a weird reason. I never expected to have them let Diaz and Alonso walk, the both of them. I don't know, man. Really, really weird. So those took the baseball world by storm, especially. That's the reason I really bring them up and go in on the Mets, because the discussion is how the winter meetings started out really quiet, and then they just lit up with that. And before that, another wild thing came out about Devin Williams, and this is where we get into the Yankees a little bit, but that's really what had the winter meetings heat up in the last couple of days there. And there have been some moves made since the winter meetings ended, maybe just as a follow-up to how things were going there. Maybe if certain people were having discussions, they followed up on them in the coming days and had things get done after the fact. Like even the Mets themselves, they brought in Jorge Polanco now. So one thing happened, though, just the day after we last spoke, so this is way before the winter meetings even, but Devin Williams is no longer a Yankee too, because he is a Met now. Yeah, in all serious, honestly, that was kind of my reaction. I'm not even going to lie. So it was really just interesting for the Mets, really, but that does include the Yankees. That's why I saved that for now as we sort of transition to the Yankees a little bit. But just super interesting. And that's why when Devin happened, I mean, some people started to feel down about Edwin and said that could have been another reason why Edwin might have walked away. And that's, that could be true. But regardless, that was very interesting. And if that's the plan that they had in place, that was Edwin's replacement, and maybe that's how he felt, especially if they didn't even let him in on the fact that they were going to do that. That could have encouraged him to leave even more, but just super interesting there. I mean, they gave Devin a 3-year, $50 million contract. And the only thing I could say is, yeah, I'm good on $50 million for Devin, bro. Like, I'm good on that. You can have him. Like, I was envisioning a Yankee bullpen in 26 with him still at the back end and helping things out, especially if he starts things off the way he ended them in 25. Because, listen, we know how for the vast majority of the season, we know how Devin was. It was an absolute disgrace. We don't even speak about it, but not at least if we don't want to lose our minds. But he did finish off well, and we do appreciate him for that, and at least I did. I know a lot of other people who did. And he took that even in October, and that was nice. So, I mean, it's better than the whole thing being a disaster. It felt obvious for a while that he didn't want to be here. And some quotes that he said after the fact, I mean, it really just shows that I don't think he particularly liked being here all that much, with the Yankees at least, because he's still going to be in New York. So if he didn't like being in New York, then this decision doesn't really make much sense because you're still here. But it might have just been with the Yankees in particularly because, I mean, he was taking jabs at the fans right afterwards again, and like saying that for a guy who you really didn't want here in the first place, like people seem awfully mad in my DMs, was something that he was saying at one point. And I'm certainly not mad about that. He's entitled to go over to the other side of town like so many others have recently if he wants, if he so pleases, whatever. I'm personally just mad at how he pitched for about 80%, 85% of the season. But that's just, we can just disregard that, I guess. Talk about a stunning lack of accountability. But anyway, that's at least it from my perspective. No hard feelings, Devin. Whatever. Enjoy Queens, if you so please. And I'm sure he'll handle that job just fine at the back end of that bullpen with still the pressure that comes from being in New York, period. I mean, you could talk about the differences in pressure between the Yankees and Mets, but you're still in New York, and you're going to be under heavy scrutiny by the media and the fans. None of that's going to change. And he didn't seem to handle that too well here, with the Yankees at least. So that ought to be interesting to see what he does there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just continues right where he left off and, of course, is just fine over there. But I don't know. I think the Mets are going to be in a very weird place in 26, and that might sort of get to him too. I'm not really sure. I don't really care, to be honest. But I'm just reporting the news to you. 3 years, $50 million for Devin. That's damn near $17 million a year for a guy who stunk for much of the season, much of the year in 25. I am good on that. I would have been fine if he rejoined the Yankees bullpen. I wouldn't have loved it, but I wouldn't have hated it either because I would have been pretty optimistic. I'm just being honest. Would have been pretty optimistic about his odds to pick up where he left off at the end of last year, even in the playoffs. I mean, despite my disgust with him last year, I'm being upfront about that. I could make it seem like sour grapes and just trash the guy, but I'm not. I would have been fine with it if he was with the Yankee bullpen again. I'm not crushed that he's gone, but I would have been fine if he was a part of it. I would have my points of optimism and certainly plenty of points of skepticism. That's just the truth, and I think that's warranted. But I am not spending $17 million a year on him. I would not have been happy if the Yankees guessed that on him. I mean, think about it. He could always bounce back and have another fully good season like he did for the vast majority of his time in Milwaukee. But if you want to do some math, his and Edwin's contract, they're both 3 years. Edwin got 69 and Devin got 50 per year. That's only about $6 million in difference for someone who had a disgraceful 2025 and then the best closer on the market in Edwin who had a killer 2025. Just weird. I would not have liked spending that kind of money on Devin, so I wouldn't have been happy if I heard that's what the Yankees paid for him, especially because you're talking about you're hearing the Yankees front office and Hal Steinbrenner talking about profits and payroll and all this crap, especially with a potential lockout around the corner, which is even more infuriating. And you would just tell yourself, like, wow, they just put $50 million over the next 3 years into Devin Williams, huh? That would have been interesting. So I'm good on it. Enjoy Queens, Devin, whatever. I don't really care, to be honest. I think the Yankees could figure out other bullpen arms. I hope they do, because I do still think they could use another reliever or two. I said a while back that unless, at least at the beginning when they're still missing Cole and Rodon for a little bit, that he could slide into there. But it's reasons like this why I'm happy they got guys like Ryan Yarbrough back. I think those little moves are good, and the Yankees have done good with the little moves so far, with the bullpen purge and even this next move that happened just yesterday. They brought back Ahmed Rosario for 1 year, $2.5 million. I'm fine with that. Great depth bench piece to have, another righty to have, which the Yankees need for their lineup. I'm cool with that. I'm fine. So, listen, the Yankees' moves, like I've said, I mean, it's just very weird last 2 weeks because the winter meetings started out boring as hell, then got hot for everybody else but the Yankees because as far as bigger moves are concerned, this is where I was getting at a second ago, the Yankees haven't done a damn thing. Still very quiet, which is kind of annoying, but I'm trying to be patient here. But, I mean, with how fast time goes, January is going to be on us like that. So, I'm slightly impatient. Especially because other people have done other things too. I mean, Schwarber signed an extension with the Phillies as well, on top of all the other moves I already spoke about. And that's just in the last week or so alone. So certain things have moved along a bit. And the Yankees have they've made their smaller moves, and the smaller moves are good. They're not bad moves. I'm fine with the smaller moves. But the bigger moves, where are they? It's just weird. Been very weird. The beginning of the winter meetings, dead as hell. The very end, hot, especially with the Mets. And now the Yankees continue to make their smaller moves. Like they got Yarbrough back. They purged the bullpen. They got Ahmed Rosario back. They've made their coaching staff changes, which just seems like a repetition of just more things that, yeah, they might look good on paper. Like, hey, the Yankees are making changes. They're not the changes you truly want, like Cashman or Boone or anybody else that would actually make a friggin' difference leaving. I mean, Cashman's really the only one in that regard. But still, they're not quite the changes that you would think because the Yankees have had coaching changes, many of them the last few years, yet look at what continues to happen. Year after year, it's just sort of more the same result. I mean, if anybody's interested, I could read them out to you. There are some positions that have stayed the same, like the main ones, like Brett Ausmus is still the bench coach. Matt Blake is still the pitching coach. The assistant pitching coaches are Preston Claiborne and Desi Driscoll. Hitting coach is still James Rosen. That's the same. Assistant hitting coaches Casey Dykes and Jake Hurst. Third base coach is unfortunately still Luis Rojas. Dan Fiorito is the first base / infield / base running coach. And that was where they changed coaches as well. And Tanner Swanson, not to be confused with Dansby Swanson, is the Major League Field Coordinator and Director of Catching. So that's the coaching staff for 2026, if anybody gives half a crap about that for the Yankees going into the new year. So they've made the little changes, the little ones, but where are the bigger ones? And these are what we've been talking about for weeks now, so I don't want to reiterate too much about a lot of this because, I've done pretty deep dives on all of these names, and I made it clear that these are the ones that the Yankees should be in on, at least as far as I'm concerned. Are they going to bring back Bellinger? Are they going to bring in Tucker? Are they going to do neither of them? The more time that passes, I unfortunately think that they're going to do neither, which would be pretty bad. I think it'd be pretty bad. Because if their outfield consisted of Judge, Trent, which I'm fine with the two of them, I guess a lot of people aren't okay with Trent, and I think it's definitely a risk that he doesn't repeat anywhere near what he did last year. But if he's given the at-bats, I think it could go well. We'll have to see. But if it's Judge, Trent, and then just like Spencer or Jason, listen, it could work, I guess. You never know. I'm no fortune teller. I would just feel so much more secure if they had somebody of the likes of Tucker or Bellinger. I don't know. Jason's still yet to prove himself defensively or even really offensively completely. There are times where he has some inconsistent game plan. It could throw him off, and he tends to hit in bunches a lot of the time rather than consistently. So hasn't really 100% proven himself yet, but then other people argue hasn't really fully had the full-on chance necessarily. And sometimes I find it a little hard to battle back against that because that's sometimes true. And then Spencer, he'd be brand new up here. Yeah, he had the killer season, once-in-a-lifetime season in AAA and just the minors overall last year, absolutely. But the minors are very different from the majors, very different. It's never a guarantee that just because they had extreme success in the minors that they're going to have that in the majors. So just having those four, I would just feel a lot more comfortable if Tucker was brought in or if Bellinger was brought back. And like I expressed the last couple of episodes, I'd be fine with either of them. They both have their aspects that are good and both that are bad. Bellinger, his career's been up and down. Yes, it has been, so that's a risk. And the years, there are whispers that he and Boris are, like Boris is pushing hard for 7 years. That's tough. If he were to ask for 4 or 5, and some people out there even saying 5 is quite the ask, and it's tough to argue that, kind of, but I'd be willing to do 5 personally. I'd definitely be willing to do 4. But 7, I'm not sure I'd do that for Cody. I'm not sure I would do that. That's a lot. That's a big commitment for someone who, unfortunately, as much as I love the guy, and I loved what he was as a Yankee and how well he gelled here, I'm not taking any of that away. But for the career that Bellinger has had, that's a commitment. That's quite a commitment. But you'd get good offense more often than not. He had a fine offensive season in 2025. You're going to get really good defense and in basically any outfield position you need it, or even first base if you need. Great versatility. But the career inconsistency is what concerns you. And the years that are being asked, if these reports are correct at least, then that's concerning. With Tucker, his career has been a lot more consistent. They're both left-handed hitters, so if you're looking for a righty to help even things out with an outfielder, neither of them are an option for you if you're dead set on a right-handed option. Neither of them are an option. But they're both good to the point where I'm okay with it, them being lefties. It is what it is. Tucker has been much more consistently good throughout his career. He is a talented hitter, very talented. And he is a former Gold Glover, so his defense has been great in the past, but this is where you start to get a little bit into the bad because he didn't have the best 2025. Didn't have a bad 2025, but didn't have the best, especially for his standards. And his defense bafflingly regressed. What does that mean for 26? I'm not really sure. Only one way to find out. But you're also probably going to have to make a big commitment to him with a lot of money. They both come with their pros. They both come with their cons, like many players do. That's natural. I'm okay with either of them. I think the Yankees need at least one. They're not going to get both. Definitely not, nor should they. But they definitely need one of them. I'd be fine with either, depending on the aspect that you're talking about with them. But I would be fine with either. Then you have the Japanese guys. Now, they're saying that Murakami's market is actually softening up and might not be as crazy as people originally thought. Maybe that whole report about him not being able to hit high-velocity pitches, I've heard that that might not be entirely true. Maybe it was used to drive down his price, or I don't know, maybe it is true and that is driving down the price. Whatever the case may be, I heard it might not be as wild and as expensive as originally thought. And now he's not as strong defensively as his other option, is the other counterpart offensive option that's posted, obviously being Okamoto. Murakami's a lefty, though, and he comes with great power, and he does have the ability to put bat to ball, but you're looking to him for more power. Okamoto is a righty, which is obviously a big box checked off if you're looking for Yankees needs. We've established this already plenty. And he'll give you better defense, depending on where you play him, third, first, wherever. But that's personally who I would rather. I would be fine with Murakami. Please do not misunderstand me. Any of the Japanese guys I'd be fine with. But I think Okamoto, as far as what the Yankees need, pretty solid defense, right-handed hitter, bat to ball that'll still give you some pop. I think he is a great option. He's older, and he's also the safer option, but I like him. I like Okamoto a lot. I also like Murakami. I like that he's power-oriented. He can put the bat to ball. I don't like that he's not as strong defensively, and I don't like that he's a lefty as far as what the Yankees need for their lineup. I also won't turn somebody away solely for the reason of righty-lefty. I only take that so far. But just if you're talking about needs, that is something to consider. That's all I'm saying. And then you have Tatsuya Imai, who is most strongly linked with the Yankees, as we all know, because he wants to take down the Dodgers on the big stage, which, I mean, as far as contending teams, if you're not looking at other teams potentially like the Mariners or the Blue Jays or, I mean, the Yankees are the ones. It's tough to bring Japanese guys to the East Coast nowadays, but it'd be something like a thing of the past with Tanaka, for example, if they brought another big premier Japanese starting pitcher back to the East Coast. That'd be pretty friggin' cool. And Imai's got great stuff. He's got killer off-speed stuff and breaking stuff, got an electric, really high-velocity fastball. We'll see. I mean, I would love to get Imai. Obviously, Imai would check off a box for an aspect of the team that I don't think needs really too much bolstering. I know that Cole's going to be out till about May or so. I know that Rodon's missing the first month or so. That's not enough time for me to freak out, to be honest. But they still have a pretty decent rotation for at least the start of the year there. And yeah, Imai would definitely help that, at least for the beginning part of the season. But for when both arms are back, and if Rodon's cranking, and if Cole is the Cole that we know, which I know is a risk because it's been a while since he's pitched, and he just got off having the biggest surgery that there is for a pitcher. I'm well aware of that. There are no guarantees. He's not necessarily a spring chicken anymore. So anything's possible, good or bad. But then when it comes to the rotation transitioning to that, when they get these guys back, then Imai strengthens an already cracked out rotation. So even though it's not the first area of legitimate concern, like the most concern for the Yankees, I would say, it would certainly help. It definitely would help, and it'd be a really cool and intriguing arm to have around with a lot of talent. That I would be so interested to see in how it translates from Japan to here when it comes to his stuff. They're even talking about how his arm angle and his release is so deceiving for hitters, especially based off of how his pitches move in addition to that, whether it be his breaking stuff or his fastball. It's just really interesting. He'll throw 99 at you, and then he'll throw a devastating breaking ball or off-speed pitch, and with that arm angle and release, it makes it even tougher to read. He's a really intriguing option. So, like I said, I don't think they'll get more than one of those guys, even if they just settle for Imai and neither of the hitters, or if they just get one of the hitters and maybe Imai on top of that if they still want to get him since they're so strongly linked to him apparently. Or if they just get one of the hitters and nobody else. I mean, I want them to get at least one of the Japanese guys. I think the Yankees need at least one of Bellinger or Tucker, and they need at least one of these Japanese guys. And I'd like to see them sign a reliever or two, even if they're not necessarily high leverage or back end guys. I'd like to see them bolster up the bullpen a bit more. That's been my perspective the entire time for weeks now, so that shouldn't come as a surprise. But the bigger moves have not come to pass yet. Everything they've done is on the smaller side of things. They've done things with the coaching staff. They let Devin Williams walk. They purged a lot of other lower-end arms that just ran out their time here, to be honest. Mark Leiter Jr., Jake Cousins, many other names. And they got Ahmed Rosario back. They got Ryan Yarbrough back. So they've done good, smaller moves, depth moves. These pieces that are needed if the team is to fall apart, or if you need another option, or maybe a matchup's better on a particular day, or you want to pinch hit or pinch run for somebody, whatever the reason may be for smaller moves and depth pieces. I don't think they've done a bad job with that at all so far. But I need to start seeing some of those bigger moves come in. Regardless of what's first, I want the Yankees to make a splash. And preferably, listen, if it happens in January, it happens in January, whatever. But I would really like to see a splash made of some sort in the regards that I've mentioned before the new year. I would really, really like that. That's just me personally. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody in the organization and many other people out there, especially those who don't even know who I am, most people don't know who I am, don't give a rat's anus what I say about what I want the Yankees to do. I'm just giving you my opinion. I would like to see a big splash happen before 2025 officially ends. Before midnight, January 1st of 26, I'd like for a move to be made on the bigger side of things, on bigger scale for the Yankees. What it'll be, I don't know. I just hope it happens. That's what I hope. I'd love to see one of Murakami or Okamoto and or Imai. That'd be fantastic. One of Bellinger or Tucker. We've spoken about what I think Tucker could get. I think he could get anywhere from 8 to 10 years in a contract, especially because he's younger and more consistent. And last year might have been a downtrend in certain things, but he's still been the player he's been for a lot of years now, and a promising and really, really just overall talented baseball player. He's going to get paid. But so is Bellinger, I hear. And you know what? Bellinger's coming off of a really good year, so more power to him. They got to get at least one of them, in my opinion. Get another reliever or two, and then let's see how the roster is at that point. We'll see how we do going into 26. But again, it's really unfortunate because I've already made the declaration that I think the Dodgers, as of signing Edwin Diaz, I think they're winning again. That's just my opinion. It is very early. The season is months off from starting. Spring training is even months off from starting. And there's a lot of offseason left to go where other teams could make other big improvements, and who knows. But that's just my opinion. I think the Dodgers are already winning again. I made that declaration back in January or February of 25 that they were going to win again in 25, and I ended up being correct. Even if things got interesting, I was correct in the end. A lot of people were correct. It wasn't necessarily a Nostradamus-esque prediction. And I'm making that declaration as of the Diaz signing already in December of the year prior of the season even starting. And that kind of makes everything else a moot point, Yankees included. But you know what? One can still dream, and one can still desire for their team to put their best foot forward and still contend and make as damn good of a run at it as they possibly could. That doesn't change that, as far as I'm concerned. And there's no excuse to not put your best foot forward still, especially if you're the New York freaking Yankees, which I know the way that they talk and the way that they handle things, the way that they manage things, many would say that these are not the Yankees of old. And I would agree. But I'm still going to hold them accountable and want them to be those Yankees that we all knew and loved for a lot of years. I always hear Hal talking about, even again, him and even other owners looking for this friggin' salary cap for these next CBA negotiations next year in 27. Well, technically in 2 years, 27, but you get what I mean. Just hearing all them talking about budget and profit and like them saying, oh, it's foolish to assume that we made profit. Come on. Come on. I know that the public may appear dumb and not knowledgeable to a lot of higher end people, but you really want me to think that when it comes to so many aspects, whether it be merch, attendance, TV deals, subscriptions to MLB.TV, and anything, any sort of way that the Yankees could be receiving additional revenue, even if it comes to having a game on one of the streaming platforms. There are so many different ways, especially in today's world, to make additional money on top of what you're already making on your baseline. If you're the Yankees and you break attendance records routinely, you sell everything that you sell, there are so many subscriptions and deals and so many areas like streams of revenue that go to the Yankees directly or indirectly. You make the playoffs, there's more money from that. You made the World Series in 24, there's more money from that. You win the World Series, which they haven't done obviously since 2009, but if you do, there's more money there. Like, I know they got some big contracts on the books, but bro, you really want me to like believe that you didn't make a profit last year? Come on. I know you don't owe me an explanation, and the in-depth finances are really none of my business, but come on. Knowing the organization that the Yankees are and all the different ways that these organizations, even aside from the Yankees, can and do make money, come on. Come on now. Didn't make a profit. And even if you didn't, bro, you're the Yankees. You put a good enough product out there, you'll win and make even more money. And people will show up for you anyway and give you all that money anyway. You'll make it back. You're the friggin' Steinbrenners. You're the Yankees. It's so like interesting to hear how they talk. Like they say one thing that they want to do everything they can to field a championship team, and then other things they say it just says the opposite. It's just really interesting to hear Hal and Cashman, all of these guys talk. We know how I feel about these guys. It's no secret. I've felt this way about them for a long time. And I just feel like it's redundant at this point to go through it all again, so I'm not going to. But that's the deal, guys. So much craziness. Mostly quiet winter meetings through to the very end. And then it got active for everybody but the Yankees. And a lot of interesting other things being done, like Devin being gone. And then Rosario's back, so little things being done. But then even around the rest of Major League Baseball, like the Orioles getting Pete Alonso. Diaz going to the Dodgers, Schwarber going back to Philly. Like things are moving a little bit now in the last week and a half or so. We'll see how they continue to move over the course of the next week or two. Now that the winter meetings have come and gone, they went from the 7th to the 10th, as I said a couple of weeks ago that they would. And now we're just riding it through, guys, until players report, whether it be pitchers and catchers, position players, you name it. Just riding it through to there. And things usually calm down a bit around the end of the year. So I think if we don't see another move of any kind for like the next week and a half or so, I could be wrong, but I think we'll see pretty much silence until the new year comes around. We'll see. Especially when it comes to the Japanese players, you're on borrowed time because they have their limited windows of their posting period. So if you want to sign any of them, then you better get to it. I mean, the days are going by. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes and who's negotiating with who and how close something might be to getting done, but clock is ticking, and these guys' posting windows are limited. So get to it. That's all I got to say about that. But yeah, it's not really worth, repeating what I have said that I'd like the Yankees to do for a while now. So we'll see what they do. One of Bellinger or Tucker, at least one of the Japanese guys. I would preferably love Okamoto and or Imai. I would love that. And then maybe just look for some more reliever help, especially now that Devin's gone. But there are a couple of those arms at the back end that I still like. Obviously, I love Timmy Hill over there. I love Fernando Cruz. I love what he brought to the team last year. David Bednar is going to be sticking around. I don't know how much faith they're going to put into Camilo Duvall after the train wreck that he was in the second half after they got him at the trade deadline. But if he could figure himself out, just starting a new season fresh from the top, that would be massive for this bullpen. I think he and Cruz and Bednar, and if they add anybody else, that could be a lethal back end potentially with middle relief guys like Hill there, and guys like Brent Hedrick might be back. And if he's not sliding in for the rotation, you could have Yarbrough in on the mix for middle relief. Like, there are some pretty good arms in there. So if they just bolster with another arm or two, I think that'd be really good. Starting rotation, obviously, like I said, you have Rodon missing for the first month or so. Cole will be back eventually, but you still have guys like Fried and Schlittler and Heel. And the bottom end, you could deal with the second half being weak for the first month or so. They could get by with that. And I mean, if you especially if you get Imai, then that bolsters up a starting rotation that could be considered to be a little weaker there before Cole and Rodon get back, and that'd help even more. And then once they're back, oh my God, forget about it. Forget about it. Then you have guys like Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schlittler, Imai, and then like Heel wouldn't even be able to be a part of that because the rotation would be so friggin' broken. So potentially exciting times ahead for the starting rotation, and if they add a couple of those additions with the offense, well, I guess Bellinger wouldn't really be an addition because, be running it back with him theoretically because he was here in 25 already, but you get what I mean. So make those moves, and I think the Yankees could be a nice team in 26. A winning team? A nice team, sure. We'll see. Those are my final takes on that, pretty much. But interesting last couple of weeks, guys. Interesting. Eventful winter meetings and aftermath for some other teams and some other players, not so much for the Yanks, other than smaller moves still happening. We all know what I still want done. Otherwise, let's wrap things up real quick with the social media segment. Don't really have many replies to this time around, but still a question I wanted to ask just to get a couple of thoughts at least. So the social media question for this week, this is the first one in a while. It's good to see the return of this segment here. Question is, out of all the bigger signing and trade conversations out there involving the Yankees, which one do you most expect to actually happen, if any? And I guess mine, it's either Bellinger or Imai, I guess, because Imai's been so strongly linked. I know reports can be fake or overblown. I know that. And maybe part of it's some of my hype. It could be. But the conversation around Imai really is strong. And I think if he really wants to take down the Dodgers, and if he does want to go to the East Coast at all, if the Yankees are of any interest, I think they could talk him into it and really bring him in. I think that could be very likely. And Bellinger, I say kind of loosely, because, I mean, if he's really pushing for 7 years, and there's a really good chance that it doesn't happen for him. But if they come down to like 5, and they could end up going like 6, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, if anything even does happen. Maybe somebody else is willing to give him 7 years. Not sure. But if they come down to 5, then I think the Yankees could very well get him back. They keep on claiming constantly that Bellinger is top priority. You hear that report routinely. They're still saying it. They were even saying it a day or two ago again. They might just be a part in negotiations, but they claim, at least through reporting, that it's top priority. Now, when Boris is involved and you have reporters that are close with Boris, then you could definitely be getting reports that could be, affecting the market one way or the other. We know that that is a frequent strategy of Boris. We've seen that with many different clients of his, many different ones. I mean, you could go down a whole list of them. But regardless, if he really is top priority, and if they maybe ease up on the years a little bit, at least according to what reports are saying, then I think Bellinger could be really likely to. So I'll say Imai or Bellinger personally. We'll see what other people have to say. Only a few replies on this, not too many, but that's fine because we're looking to wrap up anyway. Don't want the show to go too long. First up, let's start with my good buddy Spencer at Musician DMD. Spencer, it's been a while since I've done a social media segment, so I know I haven't been able to hear from you in some time, but buddy, I hope you are doing well. And it's so cool that, like, right when I post the first social media segment in a while, you're still just right on top of it, right there, ready to answer. You're just the best. One of my most supportive listeners for sure, and I appreciate you answering here again. I hope you're doing well with your eyesight and just your whole family's well, everything, Spencer. Shout out to you, my man. But Spencer says, Yankees will sign Bellinger. I'd expect the majority of responders would state this. The Yankees recognize his importance. He's very talented. He's very versatile. I think they'll exercise prudence and versatility approaching a signing to him. I don't see Tucker signing. Very talented, no doubt. He would be nice to have on the team, but there is no room for him. He would not come cheap, and I would not blame Steinbrenner for not wanting to give him a monumental contract adjoined with Judge and Cole. Forget Bregman as well. Yeah, people have mentioned Bregman. Again, as objectively good of a piece he would be, because he's just objectively a good player regardless of how we feel about him personally, I could never see, I said this last winter and I'll say it again this winter, I could just never see Bregman as a Yankee personally. It'd be a tough adjustment because of the history, of course, and I am a believer that people are very quick to forget history so long as you perform. I think people are very much like that, I'll admit that. But I just personally can never imagine him in a Yankee uniform. I just can't. Would he be a good get for defense and obviously offense? He's also really good, without a doubt. Yeah, he would be. Objectively, that's just the truth, no matter how you feel about the guy. And definitely, he was a part of the cheating. Yeah, that's no secret. And he should be scrutinized for that. Doesn't change the fact that he'd still be a good get. Just from a strictly player perspective. Not person, not the past, regardless. You get what I'm trying to say. Whether you agree with that or not, that's up to you. But I personally just can never see him in a Yankee uniform regardless. So I've never even just had him in my mind, period. Now, they could surprise me. I don't know. But that's just how I've been. And yeah, like I said, I've said many times, Tucker's going to get a big contract. And the Yankees could be hesitant to do that. So I definitely think because of that, especially, and that's a big factor to it, especially when you hear the Yankees talking about payroll and budget and profit, all these things from a financial standpoint. Yeah, Bellinger's automatically more likely, and they already know him and how he is here and how well he gelled here, how much he just loved it. I mean, the fans loved him. He loved them. He loved it here. It was a really good match. It really was. I fantasized for years about what it would be like to have Bellinger in a Yankee uniform, and it actually happened, and it worked really well. So that automatically makes him more likely. There are a lot of factors that make him more likely. I've acknowledged that, and that could very well be the case. But I don't know. We'll have to see if they really are that far apart in the years. We'll have to see if anybody compromises, if anybody budges or moves. I'm not really sure. But he was definitely one of the names that I mentioned being most likely as well. So I agree with that. And there are so many pros he brings. He might be a lefty, but if he replicates anything close to what he did in 25, that's a plus. I mean, he had a really good year. The first few weeks were really bad, if you remember that. But, I mean, from there on out, can't say nothing, really. Even the defense was shaky there in the beginning when he was not doing anything offensively. Like, he was just overall, I think maybe in his head just wasn't with it. But fixed it all after that. And you can move him around basically wherever you need. It's really, really a big plus. First base and anywhere in the outfield, and he'll be pretty damn good at all of them. It's a good player to have. Always. So, I'm definitely in agreement with Bellinger being one of the most common names. That's for sure, Spencer. So, I'll agree with you on that one. At Chris Vitale, my old buddy Chris. I actually mentioned you before, Chris. Chris said, I would like to trade Brian Cashman for a case of sunflower seeds. Not sure if that counts. Yeah, it absolutely counts.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah, it counts. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about my dislike of Cashman anymore. It's been so well documented. It's almost exhausting to talk about at this point. I mean, listen, the guy had a good trade deadline. I give credit to Cashman whenever it is due, and I don't act like a hypocrite when it comes to like analyzing moves after the fact. Like, I always acknowledge how when I thought a move was really good at the time, and I won't go back on that just because maybe it doesn't work out. Like, I thought the Devin Williams get was a really good one. It just didn't pan out because Devin sucked for about 85% of the season. But I'm not going to hold that against Cashman. I thought it was a really good trade. It was. And I don't think he had a bad deadline either. There are deadlines that I thought that have been under him that were a disgrace, and I've been very open about it. There are many things that I thought were a disgrace that were done off rip, and they ended up being a disgrace, or maybe ended up being wrong and had to give credit. I'm honest with this sort of thing. I try to be as forthright and as transparent as I could possibly be with all of this stuff, everything. But there's just still an overwhelming amount of things that I just don't like about things he's done, how he carries himself. Just not a fan. Not a fan. I've actually made a relation, just really quick a side note since we talked about the Mets a decent amount today, with all of the dismantling that's been done lately with the Mets. And how David Stearns has addressed it all with the media, with the public, and the whole nine yards. I've said that I honestly feel bad for the Met fan because while Cashman has done his share of good things in the past, I mean, so much bad and so much lack of ability to develop and so much lack of ability to see things for what they are sometimes. I mean, you could think of any sort of scenario. I'm not going to waste 20 minutes doing that here. But even just the way that like Stearns was carrying himself, because I talk about all the time how I can't stand how Cashman carries himself. I say that all the time. It's just this monotone arrogance. I've said it for years. It just twists my stomach in a way that almost nobody else in baseball has ever been able to achieve. For me personally, just twists me in just a bad direction. And when I hear David Stearns talk the way that he talks after something like this, when so many people are fired up, and I know it's not their job to please people when they have their own ideas in their minds about what will make their organization successful. That becomes a little bit of a slippery slope, though, because it is majorly about the fans, too. So, I mean, you get into trouble with that line of thinking that, oh, their job is not to please the fans. That's tough. But their job is to put a team together, a competent team that can win the World Series, of course. But the fans are a big reason why this is all even able to happen anyway. So, again, slippery slope when you go down that line of thinking. Regardless, my point is just sort of I hear the same sort of thing in Stearns as I do with Cashman. I see Stearns as like a younger Brian Cashman. That monotone arrogance that says, I know more than you, I am smarter than everybody else in this room and everybody else in the entire baseball world. That is just what their attitude, what their tone, what their words just conveys to you. That they have that mentality. And forget about it. I think the Yankees and Mets are just entirely mirrors of each other when it comes to their general managers and their managers. Because look, it's Boone and Mendoza in charge of both of them. Mendoza learned from Boone, was a side Boone for so many years, and they're both basically cheap carbon copies of each other as far as how they approach being a manager. Not even getting into the discussion of how much it even takes to be a manager in modern baseball. It's just... So, yeah, long diatribe on a very simple comment, Chris. My bad for that, but that's the ADD for you. What can I tell you? That's what happens when you think so strongly about people you believe to just be completely inept and incompetent. Anyway, usual final two as always. First up, my fiance Victoria at Vic Salimo. And Vic says, I really haven't been keeping up, but especially after last year with how he did, I definitely think Bellinger is the most likely move. Yeah, I mean, that's a general consensus you see with a lot of other people. And including myself, I think Bellinger's very likely, but we'll have to see how the negotiations continue to go. We will just have to see. Last but certainly not least is my mom at Julia Gina Scudero. She says, hi, Mike. Welcome back. Thanks, Mom. If I had to pick which one, I'll say Cody Bellinger for sure. We know how he handles playing for the Yankees. I do wish they would try to acquire any of the Japanese players or maybe even Michael King. Of course, in the hands of an owner who truly doesn't care about anything but making a profit. We shall see what happens. Yeah. All the profit talk. It's enough to make a Yankee fan's heads pop right off from between their shoulders. But yeah, another Bellinger. Not a surprise. It's how a lot of people feel, including myself. And yeah, a lot of it's, you see what happened last year. How well he fit in here. Definitely. The Japanese players, hell yeah. That's what I've been saying. We need a Japanese player to get their ass back to the East Coast and make an impact the way they are on the West Coast. And yeah, Michael King's another name being thrown around lately. We obviously know that he's a free agent now after declining his option with the Padres. So people are talking about him getting a multi-year contract, even though he had a shortened 2025 season due to injury. He made 15 starts, and he proved himself as a starter with the Padres a lot more than I thought he would. So, you know what? More credit to him. And maybe the injury-filled, for about half the year, 2025, will affect his contract for whatever he signed for with whomever it may be. But I think it could be a tree that the Yankees bark up, perhaps, and get him back after he spent the first 5 years of his career here. And he had a lot of good times. Especially in those last couple of years in 22 and 23. So we'll see. Obviously, he was a big part of the Soto trade, and he could end up coming back here. That could be another option. Imai interests me more, but King could be an option. He could be an option. We'll see. It's less of a risk in the fact that he is MLB proven, of course. Imai is not. So that's always more of a risk. But it's also the intrigue of having somebody new and see how it translates here. But King could be an option. We'll see. That is another option out there. We'll see if the Yankees are interested in a reunion. I wouldn't hate it, but my eyes are also elsewhere, if I was being honest. But yeah, we'll see how Cashman and the owner who loves his profits handle it. You're right. But otherwise, guys, yeah, I think we would hear that from the vast majority of Yankee fans, that would really be their expectation for most likely. But of course, we have to see what actually goes down, because that's what's really important. And we'll keep track of that over the next couple of weeks until the next time we yap, which leads me into saying that is just about it for episode 270 of Yapping Yankees today, my friends. Please remember to follow me on all social medias if you do not already, whether it just be for updates on me, more updates on the show here, and whatever else remains of it over the next couple of months, or any moves that are made in between Yapping Yankees episodes, whatever it may be. Follow my Facebook fan page at Mike Scudero NY, and especially follow me on Twitter or X at Mike Scudero, or on my Instagram at Mike Scuds97. Definitely those especially, because that's where I'm most active. But also be sure to subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 of the platforms it is available on, my good people. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment, spread the word, show the love as best as you can, as you always usually do, my friends. You're very good at that. I'll give you that. And if you have the time and you want to listen to any past Yapping Yankees episodes, just know that episodes 1 all the way through to 270 today, going all the way back to the start of the show, back in May or June of 2019. They're all available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But if you're more of a YouTube person like I tend to be, that's perfectly fine. I encourage you to do so. Then just know that episodes 34 to 270 are available on there. I didn't start uploading on YouTube till episode 34. Random number, I know. That's just the way it went. Go with it. 34 up to 270 today, all available on YouTube. But once again, as always, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today, my good people. I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again on Sunday, December 28th. That is, unless something major happens this week, in which case you'll hear from me next Sunday, the 21st, my first back-to-back of this offseason. But otherwise, it'll be Sunday, December 28th, when I come at you with episode 271 of Yapping Yankees as we begin our final 5-episode stretch before this era of the show comes to an end. But until then, guys, hang in there, be patient, please stay safe, look out for your loved ones as usual, and go ahead and kick life's ass, as I always remind you to do every single episode, my friends. And Yanks, I know there's a decent amount of offseason left to go, but my God, let's get to those bigger moves already. Bellinger or Tucker, Japanese players, some bullpen bolstering. Let's get any of them on the bigger scale. And hopefully before the next time we yap, since it'll be damn near close to 2026 by then. But until we yap again then, my good people, take care, and let's go Yanks.